All right, so this is our first set of AP literary terms for English 1 pre-AP. And just keep in mind that, yes, it's important to understand what the terms mean, their definitions, and how to pronounce them and such. But really, the whole purpose of this is to answer the question of why does an author use them, and what is the effect that he or she is trying to create? And maybe more importantly, how can I transfer these concepts into my own writing to make my own writing a little bit more complex and a little bit richer? So in this set, there are 3 terms. The first one is an allusion. An allusion is when an author refers to something that's literary, mythological, or historical. It can even go beyond historical, that the author assumes the reader will recognize. We assume that you will understand who Cupid is, even if you're not really good with mythology. In our culture, we assume that you know who Adam and Eve are, even though you may not study the Bible. In Western society, we just have certain things that we kind of assume readers know. Shakespeare, mythology, and the Bible are very heavily alluded to in literature. So an allusion example might be an Achilles heel. We hear that often. And that's basically a weakness. We consider that a weakness. And you might hear it when people are talking about sports and say the golfer's Achilles heel is really his putting. He's a great golfer, but his putting is terrible. What I use in my example at school is, as an English teacher, I'm a pretty decent reader and a pretty decent writer, but my Achilles heel might be my spelling. All right, and then you have a hyperbole. And a hyperbole is when an author intentionally exaggerates something to create some sort of effect. And the effect can go one way or the other. I mean, you could have an effect where somebody is just incredibly overdramatic, and that can be a little bit off-putting to the audience. Or you can have an intentional exaggeration where people are like, oh my gosh, it's horrible, and they can kind of empathize with it. They understand, oh my gosh, it's terrible. An example might be from the Odyssey, where Odysseus says, I am Odysseus, son of Laertes, known to the world for every kind of craft. My fame has reached the skies. Well, he's a pretty big deal, I guess, but is he really that big of a deal? So he comes across as being maybe a little bit bigger than what he is. I mean, we even see that in the animal world, don't we? Where animals like puff up their feathers, or birds will puff up their feathers to make them look bigger. My dog Ginger, when she sees another animal, the hair on her back, and he poofs up so she looks bigger than what she is. We also use hyperboles when, just talking about homework. You might say, I had so much homework, I haven't slept in like 2 days. All I've been doing is homework. Well, you probably have had a whole lot of homework, but if you're really not slept at all, and maybe if you didn't sleep, were you only doing homework, or are there other things that you're doing? Sometimes we use hyperboles as an exaggeration because we want people to go, oh my gosh, that's terrible. I mean, we're showing them how much homework we actually had. And then you've got the next term, the last one of the set, is a euphemism. And a euphemism is an indirect, less offensive way of saying something that is considered unpleasant. We might use that if you refer to somebody who has recently died. Instead of saying, well, he died, you might say he passed away, or he's in a better place, because we're not super comfortable with the unpleasant. We sometimes hear about men, if they have thin hair on the top, instead of saying that they're balding, we'll say, oh, he's just a little thin on top. Okay. Or if somebody's heavy set, we might use the word, we might just say, they're big boned. Well, that might be true too, but it's just a pleasant way of saying something that may be offensive in other cases. In Animal Farm, we've got Squealer, who's one of the pigs, and Squealer says, for the time being, it had been found necessary to make a readjustment of rations. All that really means is the other pigs aren't going to get any food. Or not the other pigs, I'm sorry. The other animals aren't going to get as much food as they had before. So they kind of polish it. They put a little spin on it. You'll hear euphemisms quite often in politics. So next time you're watching one of the speeches or when you're listening to any political campaigns, just keep your eye out for euphemisms.